Non-duality is very surprising. So this funny thing happened with someone I have been talking to. And I've seen it happen many times before. That is, they've heard me describe the experience, although it's not an experience actually, of non-duality, and heard me say it many times actually, and describe it in different ways, and talk to people who have realized it and so forth. And when it happens, it's so striking that they have to actually check with me to see if that's what is even happening. They're like, what is that? What is this? I don't understand what's going on. It's so absorbing. It's so overtaking of experience. It's so fundamentally different than the way the mind puts together dualistic experience that even if they've heard it many, many times, it's still like, what in the hell is this? It's that striking. It's that different in one sense. So why am I saying this? Why did I decide to make this video? Well, for a couple reasons. One is that when we work especially toward or work at dissolving the perceptual filters that create an appearance of duality, when we work at that, it's very easy, in fact, I think it's probably ubiquitous at first especially, that we are still looking for some imagined idea of non-duality with the dualistic apparatus of our mind. Does that make sense? So we're actually trying to imagine what it's going to be like and then oppose that imagined mental construct onto our experience, but we're not even seeing true experience yet. We're trying to impose a mental construct onto a mental construct that we think is the actual world. Does this make sense? This is why it's so frustrating and so elusive in one sense, because we're trying to use the apparatus that we've bought into as real that's not actually real to find that which is real. So we're it's like using the wrong tool for the job. It's like trying to nail a nail in with a screwdriver or something. But it's even stranger than that, because what it's happening in this mental processing, this trying to impose our illusory view of the world, or trying to use our illusory view of the world to impose another illusion onto itself. And that other illusion I'm talking about is not non-duality, but our interpretation of what non-duality is when we hear other people talk about it. Now, to make the whole thing worse, what I'm talking about when I say non-duality is not what many non-duality videos or speakers talk about. That's more like a style of speaking, a way of saying that there's no self, there's no seeker, the seeker is an illusion, there's no doership, there's just this, there's just energy, everything appearing, nothing is appearing as everything, right? That's a style of speaking, it's a way of transmitting. And it's okay, it can be effective, but that's not what non-duality is as a realization. As a realization, non-duality is a very clear and obvious, undeniable experience of literally not separation, no subject-object experience, no here and there. And the deeper aspect of it, the deeper into the pool, is formlessness, that there's literally no substance to anything. Now, it's very easy for the mind to hear this and experience it to some degree, but only experiencing it within the world of consciousness. And it will feel formless, and it will feel like there's nothing and there's no one. And, that formless consciousness, that movement and awakening, or the awakening process that I'll call non-conceptuality, is a big shift. It's a very different way of experiencing reality. But it's not non-duality. It's not yet what non-duality actually is in realization. What's being pointed to with the Bahya Sutta in Buddhism. It's a very radical shift, actually, in the way we experience the physical world. It's nothing up in the head. It's nothing about consciousness or awareness. It's seeing the underlying truth of non-separation. this world that appears like separate objects, things, and space is seen and can't really be unseen to be nothing but a mental overlay. So that kind of clear taste or even realization at some point of non-duality is quite striking. And for instance, the person I was referring to when I started the video was messaging me about noticing it in a tree. And she was saying how incredibly beautiful the tree was, but then it was as if I was in the tree was coming toward me. I mean, this person spent a good 10 minutes trying to describe this, failing, and you could tell she knew she wasn't being able to get this across because it was just so striking, so immersive, kind of scary, because you literally disappear. I'm over there and that's over here. There's not only no distance, there never was. And so you can see how surprising this would be if you don't experience things that way already. So I guess my point with making this video is just to point out that when you're doing inquiries around the sense fields, don't assume anything. Don't assume that what you think is seeing is seeing. Don't assume that what you think is hearing is hearing. Just don't make assumptions. Hear outside of that context, which is less of a doing or processing than an opening yourself to something just completely beyond the usual constructs our mind puts together about time and space, hearing, sounds, objects, perception, awareness, the visual field, how light travels, how sound travels. All of that is conceptual, or even non-conceptual thought. But non-duality, as an experience, and then later as realization, which is irreversible, is just completely outside of that. It's also inside of that. It's just so indescribable. But if you're able to just enter this mystery, the mysteriousness of sound, just die into it. Don't try to move your mind at all. Don't try to figure anything out. Don't try to remember what someone told you and impose it, including this. Just die into it. Let it overtake everything. Let it permeate everything. If you need to ask a question, ask, what is this? But I caution you not to use that question to attune the mind, to get an answer, a narrative answer, a label answer, a mental image answer. What is this? Just that hearing. Let it wash all traces away of identity. Let it wash all traces away of distance. Let it wash all traces away of thought, perception, self, other. Let that visual wash in front of your face flow in and completely overtake everything. Let it overtake distance. Let it overtake space. Let it overtake perception. Let it overtake every aspect of what you think you are. Let it plumb the depths into infinity. Let it go inward infinitely and outward infinitely. Let it wash away all concepts. Let it wash away all traces of identity. That's the key. Being surrendered yourself. Letting go of everything you think you know, especially things about spirituality, about self, about no self. Don't bind yourself up in your mind with this stuff. Let the color wash, the forms and shapes completely obliterate everything until there's nothing left but that, just the scene.